Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another Women's Disability Show. I'm your host for the day, Brianna Wheeler. Today's topic is going to be about my story. I'm going to get more into details about what happened and just how those beginning months were for me. So I know I've said my story a couple times, so forgive me if you already heard it before. Every single time I say it a little bit different. Sometimes I forget things, sometimes I remember different other things. So you're just gonna have to bear with me. We're just gonna see where the conversation leads us today and just see kind of I always ask God to speak through me. I kind of believe in that. So I feel like today we're just going to go with that. It's not the easiest topic for me to talk about. It's not the funnest memories for me to remember. Um, but I know that a lot of people can relate to it, and that's why I do share it in my journey. So yeah, if you guys are joining us live, make sure that you leave a comment for us. Let me open that up so I make sure that's open up. And just let us know that you're here and say, hey, if you have any questions, make sure that you drop them right there. And yeah, just bear with us. We're all a little tired today. And yeah, I'm a little bit nervous. Okay, so, and then ladies, if you guys have any questions along the way, just make sure that you guys just jot them down and then throw them in there afterwards when we get to that point. And nothing's off limits also. So don't feel embarrassed or feel like you shouldn't say something. Feel free to ask away. I'm an open book. Okay, so the day that I was injured, it was a normal day for me. Had just moved to Arizona. I was in Arizona about for 3 or 4 months. I was normally from California, and I had an apartment. I was going to school at Cal State Dominguez Hills at the time for psychology. I had my own apartment, and I was just kind of doing my own thing out here. Just coasting by, not doing anything really special. And then my grandma called me and she was kind of bugging me for like about like 2 weeks or so. And I mean really bugging me, like calling me every single day, and just like telling me that she really needs me to go down there, that she doesn't really have anybody. She was diagnosed with lung cancer and she was having hip surgery, and she was scared, and she just wanted somebody that she knew and loved to be by her side. So I talked with my boyfriend at the time. We were together for 1 year, about not even, I think, a complete year. And we decided to move out there. So we packed up all our stuff and we went out there. And it was definitely hard because we didn't know anybody. It was like in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't in a big city. It was, for anybody who knows that area, it was Buckeye, Arizona. So it was like deserted for miles and miles. Like there was nothing. And we are from the city. We smoke weed, we hang out. And like, so it was kind of like a culture shock almost to be over there. And the pay was completely different. The work was completely different out there. My boyfriend got a job where he was working like 5 in the morning to 9 at night, only getting paid $6 an hour, and it was just really hard on us. It was. We were just kind of coasting by at that point, and we every single day we would I would pick him up after work, and I would pick him and his coworker up. He met a coworker out there that kind of was from the area and knew people, and smoked weed as well, so we kind of like connected. And around like 4 or 5, I would go and get them, and we would drive to the coworker's house that was like 30 minutes out, and we would kind of just hang out, just smoke, listen to music, just chill. I would play games on my phone until his aunt got home. And then, yeah, we'd go our separate ways. There was nothing really for us to do like late at night at the house. And so, yeah, that was our normal schedule. So this day, it was like almost time for us to go home because I remember like it was already getting dark. The coworker's aunt had already come home. We were just like waiting for them to settle down, and a guy comes walking up the street, and I noticed him right away because he just was kind of like looking around. He had tattoos on his head. He was just kind of a little bit more sketched out. So I did notice him, but I'm not like a judgmental person like that. So no, I don't like try to just judge people right off the bat. Um, I do get blamed a lot for this part of my story, so it's hard for me to tell it and like explain it. So bear with me. But so he knocked on my window, and I like turned to my boyfriend because I was like, "What the hell? I'm scared. You know, I'm not trying to roll down my window." Um, I was just waiting for him to like tell me like, is it okay? Like, what should I do? And in that split instant, the coworker was in the back and he rolled down his window and he recognized the guy. They had just previously been introduced one time before, and he just wanted to let him know that he was inside of the car. And the guy started gibbering away about being angry about his sister's boyfriend, and he was just kind of explaining the story. I was already irritated at this point because at that time I was like already tired, you know, I'm already kind of ready to go home. um, and this guy asked to get inside of the car. So for me, it was really common for people to get inside of my car because we were new to the area. We are the only ones with a car. Everything was super far. We were always meeting people, you know, and like, um, so it's not a point where I'm just like, okay, halt, you know, don't enter my vehicle. It's just not one of those situations, you know, and um, if you understand, you understand, and if you don't, you don't. That's what I've had to learn with telling my story because not everybody can understand the situation, you know. But if you are a smoker, you smoke weed, you know, we usually are pretty friendly and we're not totally, you know, trying to kick everybody out of our vehicles. We're just like, hey, you know, like, yeah, of course you can smoke a bowl with us, you know, which of course, you know, doesn't always get you in the safest situations, which is I'm proof of and can be hard. But so, anyways, I feel like I'm gibbering away. Let me just breathe. Um, so then he asked to get in the car. He was gonna walk around to the driver's side, and the guy tells him, "No, just get in right here." And he scoots over, and the guy gets in behind my car. I'm behind my seat, and um, I had my feet up on the dashboard, and for some reason I put them down, which is one of those moments where I'm just like those split second decisions that you know don't really realize at the moment, you know. But if I would have still been in the position that I would have been, who knows if I would have made it first of all, or if I would have been a quad, you know, who knows where my situation would have been if I just in that split second didn't readjust my seating. So I was just like already kind of getting irritated, ready to go. And it was 2 minutes later, and I just feel this like jolt of electricity through my body. And I kind of didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if a car had slammed into us. I didn't know what was happening. So I remember that I turned to my boyfriend and I screamed. I remember like the force of me screaming, but I don't remember hearing anything because my ears were ringing because the windows were all rolled up. And so the gun made all our ears like kind of, you go deaf for a moment. And um, I just remember like locking eyes with my boyfriend, and I knew something was wrong. Like I knew something was wrong by his face. And they all jumped out of the car, and my boyfriend opened my door, and my foot was on the door at that point, like inside it, you know, it was like resting up. And when he opened it, it fell out. And I realized at that moment that I couldn't lift up my leg and put it back in. So I knew something was wrong. Um, I was very calm through this whole thing, which also trips people out when I'm telling my story. I didn't cry. I didn't get for 1 second like lose my train of thought or anything. I was super focused on what we needed to do and what they needed to do mainly because the guy that shot me still had the gun in his hand, and that's kind of when I observed the situation and I realized what had happened. He was like freaking out. He had the gun and he was like, no, like what the hell? So he was like, don't call the cops. That's what his main thing was. You guys can't call the cops. Don't call the cops. And my boyfriend was like, okay, just get out of here. We need to go. Oh, before that, I had like looked up at him and I was like, if you guys do not call the cops right now, I'm gonna die here. That's gonna be a bigger situation. And at that moment he kind of like realized, and he took off running. So they called the ambulance. My boyfriend was freaking out. He could barely talk. Um, and I told the coworker to check behind me and to make sure that what was going on. Like, was I hit? There was no blood in the front of me. So, I was just kind of confused. Like, was I grazed by it? Like, what's going on? So he put his hand behind my back. And when he pulled it out, I just remember like his whole hand was covered in blood. And I was just like, ugh. No, I was like, I need some water. Can you give me some water, please? I was very calm about the whole situation. And at that moment, I feel extremely blessed. I do when I'm thinking back on the situation. And even when I was thinking about it in those beginning days in the hospital, because my whole life, I would ask God, like, why me? Like, why am I in these traumatic situations? Why do I have to be the one caring for these kids? Why does this have to be happening to me? I don't understand why I couldn't just be someone else in another world. Like, and it wasn't like, just a month. It was years that I felt this way. I remember feeling this way. And not to say that it's right that I went through those things, but I feel like at that moment, I felt the strongest that I could be, you know? And I felt like from caring from these kids and from loving, my siblings and my cousins so much, I really realized how to be calm in those situations. From being in traumatic situations, I learned like, the best thing to do right now is not for me to freak out. I need to think about the next steps. I was very observant. And you know, it is hard. It is hard for me looking back at it, but I am thankful at the end of the day. I think. So, anyways, the cops take forever to get there because it's a gun situation. Um, they finally get there probably like 20 minutes later. Because they needed to secure the whole block before even coming to see if I was okay, which drives me absolutely nuts thinking about because you hear about so many gun violence people or people who were shot passing away, and you just think like, where's the urgency? I know there's a safety issue as well, but in that moment you're thinking about all those things. You're like, am I going to survive? Of course I want to comfort everybody, but do I know if it's going to be my last moment right here? I don't know. And so yeah, I remember the whole incident. When the cops got there, um they were asking us different questions. I didn't have any answers for them except for what the guy introduced his name as. They knew exactly who I was talking about because this was just a troublemaker in that small town. He just wasn't a good person. So they knew exactly where he lived, all about him, everything. And at the beginning, I told them I didn't want to press charges. They asked me about 15 times if I wanted to press charges throughout the first day, even when I was in the hospital. And I kept on saying no, um, because of the fact that I just didn't know his intentions, and the honest truth is I wasn't raised to talk to the cops. So in that situation, my first instinct wasn't to tell the cops everything. You know, it wasn't until later on that I understood who this type of person was and that he had no remorse at all for what happened to me. He wasn't apologetic. He did not care. Um, and then I knew the extent of my injuries. I came to terms fully with what happened that night is when I decided then to go the route of pressing charges, which is a whole nother conversation, of course. And um, I remember my boyfriend calling my mom, which is one of the hardest memories of my whole story. He called my mom and put the phone to my ear, and I just told my mom that I had been shot. And she was like, "What do you mean? Who shot you?" And I was like, "I don't know," like, because I didn't know, which is probably wasn't the best answer for her. I know the way she explains the story, she was very frantic in this situation, of course, she starts yelling on the other end, like, "What do you mean? What's going on?" And I was just like, "I don't know. I love you. The ambulance just got here. It just so happened that the ambulance were arriving, like, right when I was talking to my mom. And when I went through trial, I had to watch all this footage back because the cops were right there standing. And in my normal memory, I don't remember the cop being right there, but obviously he had to been right there because the camera footage was. I had to watch the camera footage back, and I had to like hear me telling my mom I love her, and I just remember in that instant I knew that I was telling her I love her because I didn't know if it was going to be the last time or not, you know, and it's just such a hard memory for me because it was like at that moment I think was the first time that I really was just like came to terms with, is this going to be my last day? It's an ugly feeling to have, you know. And it's a long time. When thinking back, everything so happened, in a span of, whatever, probably 2 hours. But each of those minutes, when they pulled me out of the car and I just felt my body on fire, I felt instant pain when the bullet hit me. I have nerve damage, so the bullet basically exploded in my back and it's pushing on different nerves. So instantly I felt so much pain in my stomach, like on fire. I remember I had to unbuckle my shorts and I was just like holding my stomach and I was just like, my stomach hurts. So what they thought happened was the bullet had bounced around in my organs, which does happen to a lot of people. Um, but it was because of the nerve damage. So they pulled me out. The ambulance ride was so long too because I was in the middle of nowhere, and they were like, "We're gonna drive you out to a further hospital because the hospital that is close isn't a good hospital." They literally told me that as I was laying in the freaking ambulance. And I was just like, looked up at them. And I just was like, they should not good hospitals. I remember thinking that. I'm a big Grey's Anatomy fan. So that was even before my injury. I love Grey's Anatomy. On on the ambulance, they had trainees, and they asked me if it's okay if the trainees came on there. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. They were ecstatic because they never see anything like that inside of where they were at. And I'm very observant, so I'm watching all this like happen as I'm, getting inside the ambulance, all this stuff. My boyfriend was in the front, and then there was just this one moment that was the most scariest in the ambulance where I felt myself falling asleep. And like I remember I couldn't talk anymore. The whole time I was just like gibbering away. I remember telling them that I was a Grey's Anatomy fan and I was just talking away because I thought if I can hear myself talk, I'm alive. That's the way my mindset was. So it was coming out as me just gibbering away. And then I couldn't talk anymore. And I remember like just try to like speak and just tell them like something's wrong, something's wrong. And it alerted the guy's attention. They like flipped me upside down. They pushed something inside my IV. I like started to wake back up. And you hear about those stories where it's like you're going to the white light, and in those ambulance, it's so bright, and like you really feel that way. Like how many times in that span did I feel like, am I gonna die? And I don't think people realize how traumatic that is to your mental health. Like how hard that is to come to terms with. Like, for the people that do remember those things, or even think back to it. And yeah, so I remember that I just was like, get me into surgery. So, because I'm a Grey's Anatomy, so I'm like, I need to go to surgery, get me in there. And then they told me that I couldn't have surgery because if that they went in, that I would become more paralyzed than I was now. And they wound up strapping me to like the table. It was so hard for me to just remember these memories. And it was a teaching hospital, so there was like literally people all around me. I'm like strapped to a table, my clothes are cut off, um and I'm crying. And at some point they just kind of they tune me out. They are tuning me out, like me crying and me like complaining that I'm in pain. My adrenaline kind of went down at this point, so all the pain's kind of rushing through me, and it's kind of just this intense amount of like shaking, can't breathe, like pain. And that went on for about like a day and a half. And I they finally took me into the room, and they wouldn't let my boyfriend in to come see me because he was there, and they just didn't know fully what had happened yet, so they needed to get all sides of the story and all this stuff. um which was really hard for me too because I was just crying for him, I remember at that moment. And the doctor came in with nobody else there and just told me that I was paralyzed. And I said, okay. And he was like, do you know what that means? And I was like, yeah, it means I can't walk. And he was like, do you have any questions? And I was like, no, I'm okay. And he was like, okay, let me know if you have any questions. It was very calm like that. It was very like, I was just in my own head. And it's not to say I wasn't having a lot of emotions. For some reason, it's just I don't show them on the outside. And I have that problem. Like, it's just something that I go through. Like, I'm freaking out on the inside, and I don't portray that same emotion on the outside. And so yeah, so that happened. My grandma came. My grandma was really sick at the time, but she showed up. My mom had caught her. My grandma stayed that whole night, that first night with me at the hospital. And they weren't sure if I was going to have surgery at that point, so they wouldn't give me any water. And I was so thirsty and I was like crying for water. And so she would like get the towel and run it under the faucet and like squeeze it in my mouth to give me some water just to like refresh my mouth. My grandma was a gangster. And looking back, she probably shouldn't have done that because if I had surgery, no, I'm not supposed to have water. But it's all good. I didn't have surgery, and it's a great memory that I have with her. So she was in so much pain, but she slept in the chair next to me, like literally, like in a hard chair, like just leaning over me because I was waking up every 10, 15 minutes, like screaming. She would just wake up with me and try to like tell me it's okay, and like rub my head and like put me back, try to put me back to sleep. And then I would just pass out from the pain. It was so intense. Because it was nerve damage, the pain medications weren't working. So that's what they explained to me. Because I was like, please give me something. I cannot take this. And they were like, you need to give it time to go in your body. Like, we've given you all we can give you. It's not pain medication, it's the nerve medication that you need. Um, so my mom, she lived in San Francisco at the time and she flew down. She showed up in the morning and it's all really a blur kind of to me. I have these memories of kind of just opening my eyes and seeing them all just staring at me. My one of my friends from California was randomly visiting her family that was like a couple cities over the first time, and she was there, and it was like one of my really really close friends. It was really random that she was just in that city at that same time. Um but she got to be there as well with me, and that I'll never forget their faces staring at me and me not really being able to say anything or say how I feel or like, really have a conversation or anything like that, and them wanting to help but not knowing what to do. There's nothing they could do except for just stare at me, and yeah, those beginning days were so hard in the hospital. I know when I came to terms with it, I was super grateful that I was alive. I was super blessed. But thinking back now, I think that was just like a problem that I had, like saying I'm okay when I'm not okay. Like, I wasn't okay at that time. Yeah, I was grateful to be alive, and I knew that I had to be strong, but there was so many emotions that I didn't even know how to get out and tell people the way that I was feeling. And so I would just put on that front that I was used to doing my whole life and just saying that everything was okay. And looking back, I really wish that I wouldn't have done that because it was really just a drain on my mental health and a drain on me, and it just prolonged my recovery so much. But yeah, so I was in the hospital, and then I went to rehab, and the rehab that they sent me to, like, they didn't have a lot of spinal cord injuries. I was the only one. They were used to like older people that had like falls and stuff like that. Um, so it was just hard being there. I didn't meet anybody else inside of a chair. They did their best looking back at it now. I was not the best patient because I was in so much pain. And basically, they needed to work me a certain amount of PT hours for me to stay at the facility that I was at. But I was trying to explain to them, which looking back, they understood. It's just nothing I don't think they could done about it. But I was like, I'm in so much more pain than they are. Like, I can't do the same PT and OT that this 70-year-old lady that had fallen has to do. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm exhausted. And I didn't like that time could have been used so much more for learning different things, but I honestly just didn't understand the world that I was going into and what I should be asking in that time. Now we say like rehab begins the day you go home. The reason why we say that is because you're in rehab, for any newly injured people watching, ask questions, stay there as long as you can because you have somebody, right there for everything that you need. You could just push a button and they come inside. And you don't have that when you go home. It's hard. So I wasted a lot of time, being angry and not really putting the most effort that I could in those beginning months. I didn't know if I was going to walk again. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I think I was just the pain takes over a lot, which is something I want to touch on because being in pain, from the moment you wake up. I remember there used to be this split second in the beginning that just would break me because I would come out from my dream and there would just be a split second where my body wouldn't be in pain. And then all of a sudden, my whole body would just be aching and I just wouldn't want to be alive. I would not want to be alive. I did not understand why God kept me alive to feel like this. It did not make sense to me. And that was really hard for me to get over, and get through and not understand or come to terms with this is my life now. People don't understand how hard that is to do. It seems like something easy, but I mean, people be crying over a paper cut. Like, you don't understand when you're in this intense amount of pain all day long, like what it can do to you. It can destroy you. And so I've had to learn now not, that I can't let it because that doesn't go away from me. I have to keep living my life. It doesn't take a break for me. And so I'm just going to let it win. At the end of the day, no. But that's my mindset now and not so much in the beginning. So yeah, let me see. Where am I at now? I feel like I lost my train of thought a little bit. So yeah, that was rehab. Do you guys have any questions? Nikki, do you have any questions? Oh, I can't hear you.
I was muted. Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
What would you say your like mindset now is? You're what? You're like 5 years out?
I'm about to be 6 years next month.
Oh, wow.
I
Yeah,
totally
like
skipped
your mindset
introductions. I'm so sorry, guys.
going into 6 years to going to like the first stages that the story you just told. Like, what would you say your difference is now or the similarities?
Mhm. My difference is 1,000% different. I felt like when I first got injured because I worked so hard for my independence. I was the first one to go to college in my family. I just really wanted to strive to just be something in life. Like that was my goal. And so I took a lot of pride in that. I took a lot of pride in my independence. And when that was taken from me, and I couldn't even turn off the air when I was cold, or go to the fridge when I was hungry, or turn off the light, or turn myself. In the beginning, I had to have my boyfriend turn me throughout the night and having to wake him up and just feeling so stuck. Um, I didn't feel like there was a purpose for me to be alive without the use of my legs. Um, that's the way I felt. I was so depressed. I um, hated life. I would just stare at memories of my old life, stare at pictures of me walking and cry. And um, yeah, I fell into a major depression. And it's so crazy looking back now because I had to find some old pictures of me walking for this interview that I did. And I asked my mom, "Do you have any pictures of me walking?" Because I honestly don't have that many pictures of where you can even see my full body or like videos. I just don't have them. Like, I don't know. I was sitting in a lot of pictures or they're selfies or like, I don't know. And then they like asked me for like a list of different things. And they're like, "Any pictures of you in college?" And I was like, "No, I don't have any pictures of me in college. I don't know why. Like, I just don't." And so like I asked my mom, like, "Hey, do you have any pictures?" So she sent me like a couple different pictures, and I was having a conversation with her afterwards because she was like that they were really hard to look at. Not just the pictures of me walking, but the pictures of me in the beginning of my injury, that where you could just see how miserable I was in my face. And the miserableness in my face, I still see it in the pictures of me walking, which is so crazy to think about now. Like, I look at those pictures of me walking and I don't see that happiness that I saw in the beginning. All I see is where my mindset could have been different. How much loyalty and trust I put in other people and how much drama I let their drama take over my life, how much I just took on from my family, and like I just want to give that old me a hug because she was broken. She was so broken. She was going through so much. And um it's so crazy what a different change in perspective can do for you, because those are the same pictures that I was looking at and fantasizing and wishing I could go back to those moments and feeling like they were the best times of my life. And now I did so much self-help work on myself. I really dig deep in, my inner child and just what I need to work on, my flaws, what I can change, how I can be a better person. Not just in my community, but as a family member, as a friend, and as to myself. How can I love myself more? Um, you know, COVID was definitely hard, but it's given me a lot of time to sit back and reflect. And I wouldn't change anything now. And me and my brother were just talking about this because he didn't understand in the beginning. He asked me, not in the beginning, like when I started meeting people and going to support groups and inside the community and meeting wheelchair friends. It was like probably that first year. And there was a moment where he was like, would you take it all back if you could? And I was like, I wouldn't. I can't take it back because of the people I've met, because of the stories I've heard, because of the wisdom I've learned and the journey I've been on now. How can I take it back and go back to who I was and say I want to just erase it all? Like, I can't. And he looked me dead in my eyes and he was like, I don't understand that. That does not make sense to me. I want to take it back for you. And now recently we just had a conversation, like probably like a week ago, and he was like, because we were talking about how I felt about the pictures, and he was like, I understand now what you mean. Like, I love who you are now, you know? And that feels good. And like it's to not say that you need to go through something like super traumatic like this. This is for anybody in the whole world. Able-bodied people can do this too. Like, we're so focused on other people sometimes that we don't take a moment to stop and think about how you can be a better person. A lot of people are just like, or I'm not going to say that. I feel like I was like, I'm the best. Like, what do you mean? Like, I am a catch, Like, am I like, who wouldn't be blessed to be with me? Like, what the hell? And like, of course, that's a great attitude to have, be confident, but don't be cocky. Like, at the same time, have those moments where you sit back and you reflect and you think about what you can change, because I feel like everybody can do that. So yeah, I've just been on a whole new journey now, and I totally different than the first 2 years where I wanted to, kill myself, honestly. And that goes for anybody out there that is also feeling that way. Let me just throw that out there. Never turn a temporary situation into a permanent one, because let me tell you, those days, there is nothing you could have told me to tell me that my life was going to get better, you know and I had to keep fighting. I had to keep pushing, and I had to take it day by day. I had to live my life. I had to start living for me again, and those feelings slowly went away. And I'm not saying that they don't creep back in, but now I've learned the tools to keep going, and to get through it, I think, which is a complete 360 than my mindset before. So yeah, that was a little drawn out. Sorry, I'm rambling a lot today. Okay, Jessica, do you have any questions for me?
Well, I think it's interesting. I I'm making an assumption, but just like kind of listening to, I think, what all of us have been through. When I first got injured, I remember meeting a lot of very privileged people that had never experienced any trauma before their accident, and how hard the accident was, just because like this is the first time they've ever been through hell. And then I know I had a lot of traumas before my accident, and I think, you guys have kind of shared a little bit. Do you think that if you hadn't gone through as much trauma before your accident, you wouldn't have already have somewhat of like the I can get through this mentality.
1,000%. I feel like looking back now, my trauma made me who I was. And it made me have that strong exterior fight where even when that moment where I saw the possibility, where I saw, the push girls and I saw them being able to live their lives, something clicked in my head where I was like, wait, an option to fight, an option to prove people wrong. Like there's statistics involved, like I had lost that for a moment. And before my injury, I felt so strongly about that because everybody told me that I wasn't going to be anything. All the statistics prove that, I was going to follow inside of my parents' footsteps and I was going to be a drug addict and I was going to drop out of school. And I was determined to just prove them wrong. I had that fight in me, and that built up from all the trauma, from having to speak my mind. Like people don't understand like how hard it is to grow up so quickly in that environment, so it really molded me for who I am. And not only that, but I feel like it made me be able to even speak now, not everybody has that will to do that, or that option, or that impact on other people. So I feel like I hated taking care of my younger siblings or my cousins when I was younger, but now I'm able to talk to people because I learned how to talk to them, and it's so many things. It goes full circle, and I have a hard time saying like
Mhm.
everything happens for a reason because, yeah, it sucks that you had to go through that trauma. I'm not saying you deserve your trauma, but the fact
Mhm.
is like you went through it, and like it's your job now to heal from it, and there is reasons for everything if you look for them. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question. I answered your question right.
Yes, totally.
Okay. Maya, do you have any questions for me?
I do. I know during one part of your story, you stopped and you said that this part is hard for you to talk about because you often get blamed for that part of your story.
Mhm.
And I just want to acknowledge that piece, and let you know that you're never to blame for what someone else has done to you. And
Mhm.
even for the people that are blaming you, like speaking to those people, like stay in your place, and this is someone's trauma that they have went through. And I feel so passionately about this because there's a piece in my story that I get blamed for all the time. And so my question for you about that, Brianna, is like, and I'm sure this will help so many other people that have pieces in their stories like this as well. Like, how did you get through that and gain the courage to be able to tell your full story? With that fear of getting judged for or blamed for your story.
It took me a long time. I literally got tears in my eyes with you saying that because it is hard, like, to go through something so traumatic and to have people still come at you like, not everybody understands, and I'm sure you understand, Maya, but when I say like I'm a gunshot victim, like automatically their faces are just like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, what were you doing? Like, what did you do wrong? Like, that's their automatically a thought. Like, it's not just even people in the community, but it's like in general. It's doctors, it's family members, it's all kinds of things, and it's like where even I've realized that my family members have been embarrassed to share that part of my story too, because they just don't want to answer stuff. And in the beginning, I cried a lot about it, but a part of me hearing other people's story, I had to take ownership back because I realized, no, it's not only gunshot people. There are people that just get blamed for their injury. There's people that were drinking and driving. There's people that were, doing a million other things. Even like my mountain bike riding through the mountains, like they get blamed for their injury. There's numerous reasons, but it's just like, do these people deserve what happened to them? No, and they deserve to be told that. Like just like you said that, like those words are so impactful to just know you're not alone in that, and to be like, yeah, you were in some hard situations, but it doesn't mean that you deserve for this to happen to you, because I don't know if you did, but I know I questioned if I deserved this for a while. And, I was just like, what did I do so wrong to deserve this happening to me? Um, but I had to realize I didn't do anything wrong. This is just life. Nobody told me life was going to be easy. Um, Nobody told me that I was going to walk my whole life. Those were just assumptions that I made. And those are the steps that I had to take in my life now to get to where I am, to be here talking, to be able to help other people through their journey. Like that matters. That piece of my story, I need to share it because it's the truth. It's what happened. And yeah, there might be, nine people out of the 10 people judging me, but there might be that one person that feels what I'm saying. And it's like, I understand you, and you just made me feel a little less alone in this world. So I feel like if I can help those one percenters out there, then I need to share my whole story. So yeah, that's kind of how I look at it a little bit.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah, I don't know if you feel the same way when it comes to that because I know, it's just hard. You get the judgmental eyes. So like I know coming to just terms with it, having to share your full story. Now, a little bit more later into your injury, I'm wondering like, do you always still share everything? Like if somebody asks you, Maya?
No. Well, like if someone asks me about my injury, I'll just say like I'm a gun violence survivor. If it's like more of a conversation and I'm going like in depth, then I will tell more of my story.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, pick and choose. I mean, at the end of the day, like now that I'm thinking about it, like I've been in situations where I don't feel comfortable sharing my full story. I don't feel comfortable saying that. For a long time, I didn't say I was smoking weed, like in my story, because I felt like people judged me for that, like that we were smoking weed, like, and so for a long time, I didn't say that part of my story, and it's like at the end of the day, so what if I was smoking weed? Like, I don't deserve to be shot because I was smoking weed. It's like, what the hell? But it's just like in our head, and we feel like so many eyes are on me already that I'm not trying to have more eyes on me. And so I feel like I was really embarrassed to even tell the full story to like my friends and yeah, and my family members still have a hard time like explaining what happened. And yeah, but it is what it is. I have to just live my life and keep on putting out my story, my truth, my content. And I feel like when God wants me to share it, I'm a big believer in religion and God. And I feel like when God wants me to share it, I'll share it. And if not, I don't feel like it that day, you don't get the full story from me, then oh wow, it is what it is. I'm gonna go about my business. Um, but yeah, something else that I forgot to touch on was the trial, which was interesting because this is where we had to, replay everything and watch it back and all that stuff. And in that situation, it probably took about 2.5 years for me to actually get a trial date set because the guy was firing his attorneys. He was putting in appeals. He was doing anything he could to prolong it to not get that trial date set. And I remember like messaging them like, hey, I can't even, use the bathroom by myself. And this guy's over here filing appeals. Like, come on now. Like, how is that fair? What I've learned is that this system that they have to, like, how do I say this? It's supposed to be set up, to get the bad guy and to, help the victim. But unfortunately, it's set up like that. And even when it is set up like that, it can be super traumatic to go inside those rooms, to have to relive everything. Not only that, but you're having to deal with one person on your side asking you questions, trying to get as much emotional detail as possible out of you, and the other person telling you that everything that you just said is wrong and that you're not telling the truth. And then the nerve of them, they told me that I could only answer in yes and no. And I was so irritated because I had to have two trials. This is just an example of how grimy they are. So in the first trial I mentioned, the reason why I didn't want to press charges right away is because I didn't believe in it. My family wasn't raised to talk to cops. Like that just was my belief. It wasn't until afterwards that I came to terms with it, and that's when I decided to press charges. I said that in the first trial to explain why I didn't want to press charges or whatever. In the second trial, the guy told me, "Is it true that you previously said that your family members don't like to speak to police officers? Are you?" And I was like, "Yes," because I could only answer yes or no. I can't explain like why I said that. And they just like, I remember it being the most ugliest feeling and being so emotionally drained from it. I had to fly all the way to Arizona. I didn't want to do it anymore. Not only that, but this motherfucker was just right there, just acting like he was in school, just doodling away on a piece of paper. And when my boyfriend got up there to say his part, he was staring at my boyfriend and just dogging him the whole, or looking at him mean the whole time. And I was like so triggered because I remember feeling inside of my bed those first 2 years and being like, does this person care? Like, does this person understand what I'm going through? Do they know how hard it is for me day to day? Do they care? Like, I want, like, he's over there firing his attorneys. Like, does he understand what he did? I don't get it. Like, another thing is, like, he was a 9-time felon, so he was not supposed to have a gun. That's a big deal to me because it's like, because you couldn't follow simple rules that were laid out for you, my whole life changed. Like, that is a trigger for me. That makes me, frustrated, and like a reason why I wanted to fight. Um but it was super hard, and I just decided, to keep going because who knows if he was going to learn his lesson or not, but I knew that I had to get through this. I'm kind of grateful that it took that time because I was able to roll out of there and be like, no matter what happens, I need to live my life. I need to keep going. And if I would have went through that trial in the beginning, if I would have had to watch that footage and deal with those brutal days of them grilling me like that, I don't think I would have been able to recover mentally from it like as well as I did later on in my recovery. So like goes to tell you, like, sometimes in life you want something right now, and God, or life, or however you want to view it, has a way of like, no, like, I'm going to give you this when you need it. It's like almost like a little kid wanting candy after candy, and it's like, yeah, it tastes so good, but later on you're not realizing you're going to have a stomach ache. Like, wait a little while and then you can have another piece of candy. But it's just like, we want what we want right now. We don't think about the repercussions all the time. So because life is so tricky, we don't always get to see the future. Sometimes we don't understand when we're not getting what we're asking for at that moment. So I'm just going to say to anybody out there, like, don't let that get you down. Keep putting that out into existence, what you want, and keep working for it. And if you have bad days or bad moments, don't feel like you go all the way back. Like, I always say that because I think it's so important, and I think it's something I have to remember constantly too. It's like, because you're feeling this way, you feel like all this work that I put in to become who I am gets disappeared. Like, why can't I just get it together? And like, unfortunately, mental health doesn't work like that. You know, mental health hits you when it hits you, and it's not always easy to bounce back from. So I just want to throw that out there. It was definitely hard, but worth the wait. He did get a guilty sentence. I wrote a long letter to the judge explaining everything that I've been through. If anybody's out there and they need help with that, message me because I am willing to help you. That's a hard thing to put into words. I'm really good at essays and that kind of stuff. So message me because that letter to your judge really does matter. And that's the reason why the guy that shot me went from 7 years to 13 years, which was the maximum that he could have. And I recently just found out when I had to go look for like all the pictures and stuff that he's filing an appeal to get out. And I got super triggered because I was like, no, he did not. Like, here he is still thinking that he deserves to get out. Like, that just makes me frustrated because another thing I said inside of my letter to the judge was like, if he was a different person, if he was right here telling a different story, then I would be telling you a different story. Like, I have a good heart. There's no way if he was like, look, I don't know what happened, or even if he did was like, look, I was on drugs, I was drunk, I was trying to do this. This is what happened. If he was just honest with it, instead he said that we were liars and that it was basically the coworker and he had nothing to do with it. And it was a little bit triggering for me. But the tricky thing with forgiveness, and I think that's why it triggered me so much, is because you want to believe that you forgive, right? And that you're forgiving this person for you. Um, and forgiving somebody can be tricky, you know. In that moment, I felt like all of that went away. You know, I had reached a point where I felt like, no, I forgive him. It is what it is. You know, he's lived his life, I lived mine, and now we're going on our path that we're going on, you know. Um, but when I saw that, all these emotions came rushing back to me, and I was so angry again. And I broke down crying. And, I was just like, telling my boyfriend, like, I don't understand, you know, and he was just supporting me the best way that he could. But afterwards, I realized I can't let this guy steal any more of my shine. I can't let him steal any more of my tears. He doesn't deserve it. I need to keep living my life. Regardless, I had to tell myself, Brianna, if he got out yesterday, if he got out today, or he got out tomorrow, you can't let it affect your life. You need to keep on living your life. You can't let this break you, you know? And that is a tricky spot to be in. It's not an easy thing to come to realizations with, but I felt so proud of myself when I did. I really did, so don't give up. um, this is traumatic, this is hard, keep fighting, I would say to anybody out there listening. You're gonna have hard days. This injury is not easy. I have a pressure sore right now. I have UTI. I don't feel good. It's not the funnest all the time. So I feel you. Um, but you have a purpose, and you're a beautiful human being on this earth. You are worthy. Your dreams and your words matter. Your laughter matters. Your I love yous and your smiles and your hugs matter. So I just say keep pushing to anybody out there listening. Keep going even on your worst days. Don't give up. So yeah. Let me look at the comments really quick.
There's some sweet comments to you, Brianna. Someone said you're a warrior, Brianna. Thank you for sharing your
Oh,
story.
thank you,
I don't know if
Ruby.
that would have been weird for you to read, so I read it for
Thank-
you.
oh, thank you. Thank you, Nicole, for your super chat. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Amber, for your super sticker.
You're so
Uh,
sweet.
try to think of it as a new
No.
life. Do you think you were put in this situation for a bigger purpose? Absolutely, I do. I think it's so interesting how many amazing people are in this community. And I really feel like we're kind of put here, and it sucks to say, and some people don't really like it when I say it, but whatever, I'm going to say it anyways. I feel like we are put here for people to listen to so we can make a change, so we can be loud, and that we can have attention drawn to us. Like, if you've ever been to the Rolex experience, there's no fucking way all these beautiful, stunning ass amazing women have been in this situation or in these rooms. Like it's it's mind-blowing to think about, and so I definitely think there was a bigger purpose, whether I understand it or not. And that's something I had to come to terms with. Like, everything does happen for a reason, but you don't always get to know those reasons. You don't know why things happen. You don't know, you know why you were even late to an appointment or whatever the case was being, and you don't always get to know. That's life. And I feel like for a long time I got stuck on those things, and I just wanted to a reason, and you don't always get to have those reasons. And so, yeah, how could I not feel like it was a bigger purpose? I feel like thinking back even now to my life before, like, what would I have been, like, at least now I feel like I'm leaving something on this earth that's making a difference. Honestly, I do. you know um, like, that's never going to go away. And I was given a voice that was even bigger because I had a big voice before, being able to relate to children of trauma, or growing up around drugs and all that stuff. And my story was very powerful before my injury, and honestly now I don't even talk about it the majority of the time, which is so crazy to think about. And it's like, Yeah, I've had a really, really crazy life. So I feel just super grateful. And of course, you go through that victim guilt. I don't know if any of you guys go through that as well, but I know I suffer with it even now when I hear about people dying. I I have a tendency to question why me? Why did I survive that day? You know? And so you can always get stuck on that, you know, because you don't always get to know those answers. So that's something that I still have to remind myself of because those are my initial thoughts when I do see somebody, you know, that's really loved passed away or you know, anybody else. I just like don't understand like why them and why not me, you know, but those are things you can question. So yeah, um, let's see. The neurosurgeon that paralyzed me and still practicing medicine. Yeah, that's a hard one. I hear a lot about people that got injured with surgeries and stuff like that, and it's like you almost sign your life away. Like you're not allowed to really like sue them or anything like that, and it's an ugly feeling, you know. But it's like has to go in one of those categories, unfortunately, as things you can focus on, things you can complain about, negative things. It's like it's just as easy as being like, you know, frustrated that I dropped my coffee or whatever. Like or, you know, I can't think of a better example than that. But what I say is I can complain all day long. I have things to complain about. My life is not perfect by any means, but where does that leave me? That leaves me sad. It leaves my energy drained. It leaves me not wanting to live life. It leaves me having suicidal thoughts, negative thoughts, being an ugly person. Do I want that? No. So I'm going to bottle all this negative shit up and put it over here in a corner and just categorize it as negative things, you know, and choose to focus on the positive stuff. As in, and what I mean by that is just as easy as it is to nitpick and throw things in that negative pile. If you really focus on it, there's a lot of stuff to focus and throw in that positive pile. You know, and you guys have probably heard me say it before. You know, I mentioned the taste of my coffee a lot because that's something that I had to tell myself every day as I was drinking coffee. Be thankful you can drink your coffee right now. Be thankful you can smell your food. Be thankful you have a roof over your head and clothes on your back and you know you're able to watch this live. Like those are little things that I feel like we're not taught to appreciate growing up. So it's so easy to just focus on all the bad, you know, and that's why I think our trauma's so thrown in our face too, you know. But yeah, that's what I would say about that. Sorry. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for watching. What are we gonna say
Just
something?
wanted
What were you
to,
gonna say?
yeah, I
You're
just
no.
wanted to hop in and tell you thank you for sharing your story. It's been a great show. I do have to hop off. I wish I could
Yeah.
stay for the end of the conversation because I'm having a good time.
No, thank you so much for joining, love. We appreciate you coming on every single month. I know it was a long one. You guys were just kind of listening to me talk, but I appreciate you guys coming on and being here for me. And we love you so much. Thank you. We're about to wrap it up. I'm about to say the end of wrapping things right now, so don't worry about it.
Okay, bye.
Bye. So yeah, I could
Brianna,
ramble. Yes.
this is the first time I've ever heard your story.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
I honestly don't say it that much.
Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing. I think it was very powerful and I love how much you touch obviously on all our mental health topics. I think normalizing, like you said, those uncomfortable points in our story. I always get asked if I was drinking and my mom's like, say no. And I'm like, but I was. Like, and
Uh-huh.
like certain things, they just carry a lot of shame and just victim blaming and I think really normalizing that we've all been like, am I really supposed to be alive? Is this a gift or a curse? I wish I was dead, Because I think a lot of people think that they see us at the end point, right? They see where we are now and how, I mean, we're back to independent, we're back to living our lives. And I think people don't realize that we all have those moments. So
Yeah.
thank you so
Yeah,
much.
definitely.
That was like so
Thank
powerful.
you.
So
Oh, thank you. I feel like your words are so powerful. I feel like I just get goosebumps because it's like um that reassuringness too, because even the fact that I'm able here to talk about mental health like is a is such a blessing because it's like it's something I've suffered with and that I didn't understand for so much of my life, you know. So yeah, I'm happy to be here and to be able to have these hard conversations, and I feel like it's super healing and not always easy for me to talk about, but I feel like each time I feel like it does help another person, you know, and I say what I'm supposed to say. So yeah. Next month we're going to be hearing Ashley and Nikki a little bit more about how they felt in the beginning of their injury, and then hopefully we'll be able to hear Maya's next the month after that. So tune in, stick around for our lives. We're back every first and third Thursday, and the guys are back every Tuesday with a new topic. And also, the Abilities Expo in Los Angeles is coming up. So you make sure to go register and make sure that Live to Roll sent you. Tell them that Live to Roll sent you because it really does help us out. And we hope to see you there. We are going to be at booth 358. Yes, that's right, right? Okay, I hope so. 358. And we're going to have a photo booth. I need some cute signs, and we're going to just have a lot of fun. We're going to have some candy there for you guys and some merchandise that you guys can get. So make sure to stop by our booth. It's going to be cracking on and cracking. It's going to be so much fun. And let me think, is that all? No, our sponsors are...
I think we said 328.
Oh, 328. What did I say? 350? My bad. 328. Yeah, thanks, Sean. And so, yeah, we're going to be there. And then our sponsors are Urology Professionals and Mobility Professionals. Make sure to go check them out. They are an amazing company. They really do help us out so much. They also just sent me saline syringes, which helped me out so much cleaning my catheter. And it's just like a dream come true. They are great with their customer care service, and they get me my stuff right away. I never have to bug them for my supply. They're always right there in my email box reminding me. I really, really appreciate them so much. So go and check them out. They're great. And yeah, I think that's all we have for you. Go and check out our on our live2roll.org for some merchandise. That really helps us out as well. We have some comfy long sleeve t-shirts and sweatshirts, I believe, over there as well, that you guys can get. They are so cozy for the cold weather. And yeah, that's all we have for you. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, bye.